Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted to be joined by Danny. We are reacting to the news that we have just seen, Danny, that Adam Azim is back in action in early 2025, February 1st to be exact, Saturday, at the OVO Arena, Wembley in London, and he is fighting former world champion Sergey Lipinets. Great fight. I think maybe I saw on Shane McGuigan's story yesterday that there was an announcement coming, and maybe overshadowed somewhat by the announcement last night of the February 22nd card in Saudi Arabia. Unfortunately, that was a bit too late, or we would have done a reaction video to that as well. But yeah, we're jumping on here now to just kind of your initial thoughts, Danny, to what we've just seen there, the announcement that Adam Azim will fight former world champion Sergey Lipinets.
Yeah, this is a great step up fight, certainly a step up from O'Hara Davis, which in itself had been a considerable step up from where Azim was operating prior to that. Lipinets, he's 35, so you would assume the best days, he won a world title, I think 6, 7 years ago, something like that. So his best days are behind him. But anyone who watched his last fight against Robbie Davis Jr., like it's not a shot fighter by any stretch of the imagination. He was hurt 2 or 3 times in that fight, came back, showed great resolve, knocked Robbie Davis down 2, 3 times, and he can punch, and that's something people have been crying out to test Azim's chin. Davis landed a couple of times, but never flush. And I think Lipinets, for my money, is a better puncher at world level anyway. So this is a really good fight. Brave bit of matchmaking, but the way they talk about Adam Azim, I think these are the sort of the fights he has to be taking at this stage, even though it is only his 13th fight and he's what 22. So in that sense, it's impressive, but I'm not surprised at the same time.
Yeah, for sure, mate. I can't disagree with anything you've said there. I think you alluded to Lipinets' last fight. I remember I watched that fight again because Robbie Davis Jr. was on that card in Belfast that I was at
Yeah.
recently, so I kind of wanted to remind myself of it. So I did watch that Lipinets fight actually against Robbie Davis Jr. recently, and whoa, it was an absolute barnstormer. It was a class fight. Um, as you said, yeah, I think it's fair to say that he's probably, his better days are behind him. He's potentially past his best, but by no means is he shot as the way you put it. I completely agree with you there. I don't think that's the case at all. Yes, it was a while ago that he won that world title. But even look, and sometimes you can kind of read into someone's defeats. And yes, he's maybe had a couple recently, but like his three defeats are to what? His first defeat was to Mikey Garcia all those years ago when he lost his IBF super lightweight title. Then you get stopped by Boots Ennis, who's obviously a welterweight as well, and a big punching
Big
welterweight,
welterweight.
a big welterweight at that. And then yeah, obviously got is the other feat was it to Michael Rivera as well, Michelle Rivera. That that's good company. They're all good fighters. Particularly you're talking a lot of people are talking about Boots Ennis as one of the best welterweights, if not the best welterweight in the world. Mikey Garcia was an accomplished fighter, multi-weight world champion as well back in his day. So like that's good. That's very very good company that Lipinets has been keeping. As you mentioned, that Robbie Davis Jr. Victory last time out does you could argue, does Adam Azim have a name on his record as good as Robbie Davis Jr.? Some people might say yes, some people might say no, whatever. But I think it is a brave bit of matchmaking, but I can see why they're doing it. They're maybe gambling that it's the right time. I think it's not as big a gamble as, for example, we recently saw, Cameron Vaughn and Gavin Gwynn. Batchor maybe took a gamble that Gavin Gwynn was shot. Was not the case at all. Arguably got beaten that fight. Our boxer and Ban Shalom doing the same thing here. Are they thinking, right, Lipinet's still a big name, still, probably ambitions of his own, but we think he's a little bit past it. So that's maybe where their heads at as well. But yeah, kudos to Adam Azim, I think, despite only being very young, like he's there's a lot of hype about him. And when you're doing that much talking, not him himself, but his team around him and everybody's talking about him as this star, there comes a point where you have to take fights like this. So yeah, credit to him, mate. I think it's a good fight. What I'm looking forward to, and yeah, the beginning of next year is already looking to be a pretty tasty one, certainly in February. Anyway, just before we kind of I'll ask you for an instant prediction as well, Danny. Just with it being announced today, do you think that do you think 2025 could be the year that Adam Azim really announces himself, perhaps even on the world stage? Or do you think that there's still, a little bit of building to do there before he does? hit that next level? Because obviously he had the European belt and everything. So all that's left next is to make that plunge to the world level.
Well, if when you say world level, you mean win or fight for a world title? I mean, I don't think so. Not this year or next year. There's a big queue at 140. There's some very strong champions at 140, and I don't think there's any rush to jump into that fight. But I think an impressive win over Sergey Lipinets at 140 probably does announce you to some extent at world level. It's certainly a win beyond European level, and the likes of Frank Pettichon and Enoch Poulsen and the lads who was fighting there. But I think there's no rush to jump straight in to a world title. I don't know if they would be able to get him one either. 140 is a strong division. Looks like it could even potentially get stronger with likes of Shakur Stevenson and who God knows who else moving up. So no, I don't think you'll win a world title in 2025, if that's what you're asking me.
Yeah, yeah, I think it is stacked. The 140 point division, as you mentioned, maybe even more stacked come summertime in 2025. Say he wins this, Adam Azim. Hypothetical world here, Danny. Say he wins this against Lipinets, looks good doing so. What are you wanting to do after that? Are you still calling for the Dalton Smith fight?
Okay, I would love to see that, obviously, but I mean, it could happen. It would almost certainly, if it was to happen, be in a Riyadh season undercard. I think that's the only way it would be financially good enough for either of them, really, to want taking it, because we know down the year it will be hopefully a fight that can headline for a world title. But if it's not going to be Dalton Smith, maybe someone like Jose Ramirez, obviously in need of a fight. Don't know where he's at after losing to Arnold Barboza Jr. Someone like that, I think. A world champion, but a more recent world champion, perhaps, than Lipinets. So that'd be a name I'd like to see. How makeable a fight that is, I've no idea. But that'd be just the first name jumps to my mind.
Yeah, a couple of good names there. They're not bad shouts there, mate. Yeah, I'll throw our fellow countryman into the mix, of course, as well. Sean McComb, he's probably looking a big
Oh, no,
fight.
of course, of course,
But then,
of course.
but yeah, yeah, he's a yeah. I can understand why people don't want to fight him. Very, very high risk, low reward. But anyway, that's besides the point. First of all, Adam Azim has to get through Sergey Lipinets, Danny, before he has all of these other fights that we're talking about already. Do you think he does that? Do you believe he gets through Sergey Lipinets? If so, how? Or do you see the upset coming on February 1st?
I think Adam Azim will win the fight. I don't think it'll be quite as comfortable as the O'Hara Davis fight was. I think Davis mentally, I think it sort of checked out at that point, and I think Lipinets for me, he's got better punch resistance than O'Hara Davis, so I could actually see this going late, maybe even points. But I think Azim's got the physical attributes. He's got so much longer than Lipinets. He's got quicker feet. He's got an excellent jab, so I think he should be able to, for the most part. There might be some hairy moments, but keep Lipinets at arm's length, and I'll go Azim on points. My prediction.
Yeah, I'm going Azim on points, I think. I was hoping you were going to go for the stoppage there, to be honest.
No chance.
So our opinion was slightly different, but yeah, I think yeah, we've seen Adam Azim is, he's when he was coming through those first, 8 fights, he was ironing everyone out. But at what level was that? I think that he is clearly does carry a bit of pop in his punches, and his punch selection is brilliant, as you mentioned. He's got brilliant hand speed, brilliant feet, a superb job that he tees everything off. But I don't necessarily think he's this frightening puncher that we were maybe led to believe at the very beginning. So yeah, I would be leaning towards points as well. Think as you said, Lipinets can hold the shot as well, as we saw. I mean, Robbie Davis Jr. not one of the biggest punchers. Did get hit a few times, but ultimately, I still think you need to be a big puncher to get Sergey Lipinets out of there. As we've seen, the only person to have done that so far is Boots Ennis, who is a big welterweight. So yeah, I'm going with you, mate. I'm going Adam Azim to win this fight. Few hairy moments potentially, but ultimately Adam Azim will add another big name to his ever-growing resume, and finger crossed for a bigger 2025 and beyond for Adam Azim. Yes, Danny, thanks very much for joining me, mate. Guys, if you were watching, please do let us know in the comments your thoughts on this fight. As always, hit the subscribe button on the channel. All your boxing needs under one roof. And hit the like on this video as well. Danny, thanks very much for joining me, mate, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Cheers, mate.